Hey, what's up guys? Into the Burning Abyss here, back with another video, finally after, I think like a month hiatus or something. Um, Basically just this format's been, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't really like this format that much. The Ishizu cards, being as strong as they are, like counter so many different decks, and they're just so oppressive that if you're not playing tier Ishizu, it's kind of hard to compete. Maybe another reason also is because at least here in the Houston area, a lot of the locals, or a lot of people are actually, um, I guess I'll say they're pretty competitive. So a lot of people do play like more competitive decks or like the very best decks. You don't see like, I mean, I guess in more diverse formats, you tend to see a bit of more variety, some couple rogue decks and all that. But right now, I feel like Tier Shizu is so oppressive that if you're not playing Tier Shizu, like you're not really gonna win, and no one's really gonna agree. Like, oh, how about no one plays Tier Shizu for this tournament? Like that doesn't really happen too often, unless it's like a no meta tournament, which again they don't happen too often. So I feel like I don't really want to play it because I hate mirror matches. I've always hated mirror matches, not just because of Tier Shizu, but I've always hated mirror matches. Like when Dragon Link was the best deck, I didn't really play it that much because even though I had the deck already, just because I don't like mirror matches. And basically any format that I've honestly played, I try to avoid playing the best deck. But right now, there's always a best deck, but obviously Tier Shizu is just so far above like that the other decks can barely compete, or like it's very hard to win. So I haven't really had the urge to really play too much, honestly. Dragons and Exosisters are like my main decks right now, like in terms of competitiveness, because they are, I guess, more competitive. But Burning Abyss has definitely taken a backseat. Though my lists for Dragon Link hasn't really changed since the last profile I did, like 3 weeks ago or so. So I'm not gonna update that deck right now. Probably wait till, I know we just got a ban list, and very underwhelming. Yeah, they did bring some cards back that could be pretty decent for Exosister in my opinion, like the Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos. So I probably will update that deck soon. But for this list, I wanted to. I know like BA is definitely not in the very best, or not in the best spot right now. It's actually in a pretty bad spot, just because at least Exosister, they don't need their graveyard, so you don't have to worry about like getting your stuff shuffled back. But BA like really does need its graveyard, so the Shizu cards really hurt the deck. Yeah. So, but I decided to make a build anyways. Anyone who, this is my channel it is my favorite deck, so I do think that I should definitely, even though it's not gonna be my main deck right now, I still wanted to test that out here and there just to see how I could optimize a build, just for people who maybe can't afford to play like the most competitive decks, so they can get kind of expensive, or for people who just like BA like me. So I thought I would show you guys my build, and I just wanted to, I guess, quickly shout out to the guy who I based off this list from. I did make significant changes, so I did make the list more like my own. But if you guys ever follow this guy named Zeroni on Dueling Book, there was a couple YouTube videos that I saw from him, and maybe like a month ago, this was before Magnificent Mavens came out, but after Darkwing Blast, he had a build that he was using, and you could see a few matches on YouTube. I like the build, so I decided to base my build off that, though I did make some changes, and make some changes to the list. I wouldn't say it's really more Magnificent Maven ready, but I do think it helps a little bit more, or I think it's a little bit more consistent in my opinion. So yeah, guys, without further ado, let's just get right into the deck profile. Alright guys, getting on with the list. Let's get right into the main deck first. So for the BAs, of course, we got 3 Graph, 3 Skarm, 2 Seer, and 2 Farfa. These are the multiples that I'm playing. I needed to make some room for a few more cards, so I cut the Seer down to 2. Also, just because you really don't want to open up Seer, to be honest. Like, I don't play the Gravity controller, so if you don't open up Graph, or if you open up Graph and Seer, like, it just makes it kind of awkward. You don't want to end on just Dante. So But Graph, obviously, one of the most important ones in terms of getting your combo started. You want to see this in your opening hand all the time. Skarm, of course, helps you a lot with the follow-up. And it just helps like make certain things like discard fodder, or maybe like summoning Beatrice with just by discarding Skarm just makes it so good. So you definitely want to have 3 just to keep, gaining advantage on the end phase. And then Farfa, of course, you want it for interruption. You will need 2 just because you want to have, if you draw one, you still have another one in deck for Beatrice. So yeah, these are like the multiples. Like I do wish I could play 3 Seer, but like in this build, I really don't want to open it. So then the 1-ups, 1 Alec, 1 Libic, and 1 Barbar. These are just more utility based. Alec is a monster negate. Libic just helps you go for like OTKs and getting BAs out of your hand, and also being able to play around the whole condition of destroying themselves when there's a non-BA. And then Barbar, of course, for time and stuff like that. So these are just different names, and they have the best utility out of the other BAs. Now, for the support cards, I am playing 3 Tour Guide and 2 Rhino Warrior. So this is a lot different than most BA builds that I've been building in the last 2 years. I've always been playing like 3 Rhino recently with like 2 or 1 Tour Guide. But the reason I've decided to up the Tour Guide to 3 is because I feel like in this meta you really need like 1 card starters, and you want your other cards to be, interruptions or things that combat tier basically. So I wanted to find ways, to have the most, I guess, the best 1 card starter. Because Rhino Warrior obviously it does fall prey to Imperm. The thing is also, no one's really playing Ashe right now, and Baylor's not seeing that much play either. Yes, Imperm is seeing play, but the fact that there's less hand traps overall in the format right now, I do think that Tour Guide has a higher chance of resolving right now. And I think it's actually pretty safe to play Tour Guide right now, even though it does play into Havness a little bit, to be honest. But this deck really needs like 1 card starters, because having to commit 2 cards just to set up a level 3 or rank 3, or a link 2 or a rank 3, whatever, having to commit 2 cards to play, I feel like it's too much in this format, unless your other cards are like super amazing. But BA's not like the most amazing deck in the format right now. So I decided to just play Tour Guide to 3 just because you really actually want to see her. And like I said, hand traps, at least Ashe and Baylor are not seeing as much play right now. So if it's just Imperm, I feel like you have a higher chance of resolving your Tour Guides. And then of course Rhino Warrior, you do want to have some Rhino Warriors in order to, basically it's like more copies of Graph. So, and also Rhino Warrior helps you play, basically it keeps your BAs from dying if you have non-BAs as well on the board. So I definitely felt like Rhino Warrior was still necessary. So 5 normal summons I think is pretty good. And if you count Graph too, that technically that's 8. So that kind of guarantees you to see at least 1 in your opening hand. So works pretty well. And then I'm playing 3 Kashrita or Kashtira Fenrir. Kind of a weird word. Probably said that wrong. But anyways, Fenrir, just because it helps you go second. And also it helps give BA another form of interruption. This is another reason why I upped Tour Guide to 3. So if you go first and you have this in Tour Guide, well, it's more like a 2.5 card, like, you're playing 3 Fenrir and 3 Tour Guide, so the chances if you open up both is pretty good. And you have a lot of other BAs. So honestly, opening up Fenrir, Tour Guide, and 1 other, like any BA actually, it doesn't matter which one, any BA, you're still able to go into like, you have IP Beatrice and Fenrir, plus 2 other cards in hand. So they could be like Bystials, they could be like Imperm or Baylor, because I am playing several hand traps. So I do think that Fenrir provides more interruption for this deck, just because, sometimes IP Beatrice, unless you have multiple hand traps, it's not that great. But Fenrir just helps provide more interruption, and it helps to go second since you can just summon this and, you know, kind of makes your opponent play around the whole banish effect. And then, like I said, paired with Tour Guide, going second, like you don't even need like you just need Tour Guide and this. So you summon this, you know, you try to bait something, and if they don't take any bait, you can summon Tour Guide. Even if they negate Tour Guide, then you can still link Tour Guide and this into like dark, and then keep going from there. So this helps have more plays. It is a little awkward sometimes though, so you just have to be careful with how you can't go for the normal, like you can't do the normal combo. If you just have this and Tour Guide going first, you can't end on IP Beatrice on this because you basically just have to commit to the IP Beatrice play only, since the BA that you summon off Graph with after you mill with Dante, like it's gonna auto destroy itself. So gotta be careful about it. Then we got the Bystials. So we're playing 3 Magnamut, 2 Druid's Worm, and 1 Sarnir. So these are, I think this is like the best ratio for this deck, just because this deck, if we were more focused on the Bystials, then maybe, and if the BAs didn't have the whole condition about destroying themselves, then I would probably put more. But you don't want to have like so many Bystials in your hand and not enough engines. So I was like, you know, I think 6 is fine. 3 Magnamut, of course, the best one, and then Druid's Worm to, you know, helps you out your opponent's monsters, and then Sarnir just to have the other name. So I think it works pretty well. 6 of these. This ratios work pretty well. Then we got the last hand traps, 2 Veiler and 3 Imperm. Of course, Imperm is probably the best hand trap in the game right now, alongside like Shifter or something. Well, but you know, not many decks can run Shifter. But Imperm is just super good. Negating Veiler 2, negating Kick Callus is really good. So you want to have, and having 5, you know, 5 is a good number in order to try to see one of them in your hand. So I couldn't find space. The deck is 40, so I couldn't find space to fit more. So I decided to keep it like this. And then for the last going second cards, we got 3 Droplet, and I guess Triple Tax's Talent is going first or second card. Droplet in this deck is super good because your BAs still get their effects even if you discard them for cost, and you get to negate your opponent's board, and it doesn't target either, so plays around like Elf and stuff like that. And then Talents, of course, is just pretty good to break boards. Or gain advantage by drawing stuff, you know, having the versatility. Just 2, because you don't want to. I think Zeroni was playing 3 in his build, and he was playing Dark Ruler instead of this, but I think he said he was playing Dark Ruler because he couldn't get Droplets in real life. But Droplets is better in my opinion, and then I personally don't like 3 Triple Taxes because you don't want to open up 2. Like, this deck's already behind other decks, so you can't afford to be breaking as much. Like, you need to have the best ratios as possible to not break. And last but not least, the last 3 cards, we got 2 Pot of Desires and 1 Foolish. Pot of Desires just because you need at least some draw power. I mean, you get a lot of search power with the Skarms and the Magnamut, but you need more hand advantage than just that. So I think Pot of Desires is pretty good just because Prosperity would be better, but you really don't want to banish too much of your extra deck in this deck. So. And I think banishing for 3 is not always the best thing. So I think Desires just works pretty well. This is another reason why I really want to play 3 Seer in this deck, because Desires, it always gets me a little bit scared of banishing like all my Seers or something. Same with the Farfas, but sometimes it's a risk you got to take because you really don't want to open up Seer in this deck, at least in this build. So that's it for the main. Like I said, 40 cards. Going into the extra deck, we got the standard stuff. 1 Beatrice, 2 Dante, 1 purple Dante. So all really standard NBA builds, so nothing new there. Then we got the DDD package. This is just in case you need to have a big beater on board. Helps play around rivalry as well. And yeah, and it can be a pretty decent interruption if you... I mean, it has a lot of versatility. It's a big beater. It can help you go into a full material Zeus. And it can, like, take your opponent's monsters, like their tiers. So that's pretty good. I think it's been doing okay. And then the Zeus package, just playing one Downerd, one Zeus. I don't think Zeus is as good in this format because of tier, so I just think it's decent into certain rogue matchups, and in some scenarios against tier it can be good, but it's very specific. So I don't think that's vital anymore. Now for the 1 Link 5, we got Underworld Goddess. Just helps you out big boards, towers, like from Agnister or all that stuff. Borderland. The Link 4s, we got Appaloosa and Axis Code Talker. Actually, in this build, it's easier to go into Appaloosa because you have all these hand traps that can act as bodies too with the Bystials and the Fenrir as well. So going into a 3 negate, 4 negate Appaloosa is significantly easier than what it was before. So I thought it's pretty good, and I think the guy Zeroni was playing the Appaloosa as well. So thought it was a good idea by him. Access code, standard OTK stuff. Just 1 Link 3 Unicorn, which pairs up with the IP. Standard, like IP standard going first combo and goes into Unicorn. So, and then the other Link 2s, 1 Cherubini and 1 Dark. Dark is super important just because this format, so many dark based decks, and tier is almost all dark based, so the base steals are almost all dark, so yeah, it's really good. And then Cherubini, of course, really good in BA. Helps you play, like, basically helps you do combos, even though the BAs have their auto destruction effect, just because Cherubini protects anything it points to. So yeah, that's it for the extra deck. Going into the side deck, just playing the Zombie World package for Flow Wonderies, honestly. And sometimes like dragon-based decks can get hurt by this card. So yeah, you can dump it off Beatrice, the Banshee, and then just activate the Zombie World. So don't think you need more than that stuff. And the back row hate, 2 Cosmic, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. Cosmic, I just think it's pretty good in this format to out like the Tearlament traps. So yeah, most destruction cards like Twin Twisters, Lightning Storm, I feel like they don't do that much in this format. Then the other removal card, probably one of the best side cards in the format right now, is Evenly Matched. Super good card removal. Vanishing face down is amazing. And then the going first cards, we got 3 Dimensional Barrier and 3 Summon Limit were my choices. D-Barrier, of course, for like tier, all the fusion stuff. And Summon Limit, I feel like, well, of course, if you're going first and you set up your own board, then you Summon Limit them on their turn. That's so good. Like, you already have your monsters, so you can just, summoning only 2 times per turn is like impossible for tier to do much at all. So yeah, I think Summon Limit's really good. Yeah, because I was thinking about playing like Skill Drain or other floodgates like Rivalry, but I think Rivalry is pretty good into tier, and Skill Drain's okay, but not as good. But I just think Summon Limit was the best one, and I couldn't find enough room to fit like multiple floodgates. So this is what I went with. But yeah, guys, that's basically it. It's the whole deck. This is probably like the Burning Abyss build for right now. I know it's not in the greatest spot right now, but still, if you want to play the deck and if you really like Burning Abyss, I think this could be a good build for you to try out. And maybe I'll consider making a trap build. I'm not sure, but yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you liked, leave a comment, subscribe, and yeah, see you guys in the next video. Peace out.